Welcome back to The Real Deal with Empire. I'm your host, Ali Fawaz, and as always, this is the podcast where we don't just talk about transactions, we're talking about transformations. And this is also the show where we talk about the people building better cities, smarter communities, and real change that's happening. And today's guest is Mayor Lori Stone, who's leading the charge in Warren, Michigan, a city that's really gaining momentum and just recently earned a spot in the Metro Marvels report. She's also the city's first female mayor, a lifelong educator turned civic powerhouse, and someone who's thinking big about what it means to lead a community in 2026 and beyond. Now, we're talking about growth, we're talking about local business, we're talking about quality of life, and then we're going to wrap things up with some fun, lighthearted questions at the end. With that, let's get started. Welcome to the podcast, Mayor.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to this.
We're glad to have you. So let's start with obviously welcoming you to the show, but let's start with something simple. What made you say that I'm going to run for mayor? Was there some kind of defining moment that actually kind of popped in your head?
Yeah, I never imagined myself in local government. With my background in education, I always saw my public service and advocacy in the realm of education, and that always drove me to the state legislature. But there was an open seat coming up for mayor. And as a lifelong Warren resident, there were things that, one, truly drove my love of my community and my determination to stay and be active and a part of making sure my community continued to thrive. But I looked at the candidates that were putting themselves forward, and what I saw was a continuation of dysfunctional leadership and local governance. And one thing that my time in the legislature shown me that there was a lot of communities that looked at Warren, the headlines, and just left them wondering, like, why did Warren relate in local governments the way it did? And I didn't have a good answer or explanation to provide them. And quite frankly, I was disappointed frequently by choice and how they pursued action and policy. And when you look around, you have a choice. One, if you don't like the leaders, try to find someone who inspires you. And in absence of that, you have the opportunity to put yourself forward. And to not take that, you have to accept the options that are offered you. And so it was an opportunity for me to take my lifelong knowledge and love of Warren, my experience in public service, my knowledge of our community, and my desire to improve the trajectory for my community, to step up and offer myself as an option. And I was very inspired that my community saw in me the direction they would like to see our community go.
Love that. I mean, that doesn't just happen by accident, though. That means you did a lot of planning and a lot of identifying kind of what are the things that the residents need, what resonates with them. So it's kind of inspiring to see that, you know, somebody who's that passionate about the city that they're from can make a difference just by saying, you know what, I'm going to throw my hand in the ring. I'm going to be the change that we're looking for. So it's amazing. That really is. And now, being the first woman that's elected to lead the city, do you feel some kind of responsibility for carrying that history forward?
Absolutely. I had to really define my role entering this. I wasn't elected because I was a woman. I was elected because of the experience I brought to the table and what I had to offer our community. But nonetheless, it's not wasted on me that in 2023, my community, after 100 years since settlement and the development of village to city, still hadn't had a woman in leadership as mayor. And so first off, I had to acknowledge all the women in the community and local leadership that incrementally had made that a possibility and a pathway for me. Second of all, I look around, especially at all the girls that I've worked with in the community who now come and reach out to me and say, I want to do that. I want to be mayor. I see myself in the future mayor. I see the students that I taught who come, regardless, boys or girls, young women and young men now, who come up and say, I'm very proud of you stepping into this role. We loved you as a teacher, and you continue to inspire us as local leader. And what I hope comes out of it is more people seeing themselves in the role of public service.
Right on. That is really great. What has there been any kind of curveball that you've had to, I guess, encounter since stepping into office?
Yeah, I think the biggest one was right off the bat that twofold. One was there was a coalition. We had 4 new members elected to the council who definitely ran on the same principle. Frustration and how the previous dysfunction in government had, developed and continued. But I underestimated, and what you forget is when you start a new role, what it takes to get into that position. I equate running for mayor or beginning as mayor as drinking from a fire hose.
Oh, yeah.
140,000 residents, 30 departments, and you've got to have a good grasp of who and what you're working with and for. And so I forgot my time in the legislature, being a new legislator. And I think there was a missed opportunity to bring in outside organizations with more experience in local government and building relationships like the Michigan Municipal League that could have come aside and help the whole council, previous members and newly elected, to redefine these relationships and our commitment to uphold city charter as well as greater collaboration.
Yeah.
The second piece of this was the shock. I've lived here my entire life. I don't think you have surprises. I'm plugged in with the community at every level. I've walked the community from 8 Mile to 14 Mile to Quinder to Hayes. There's not an inch that I'm not familiar with. And yet, when I walked into City Hall at the beginning, I was overwhelmed with the silence. Oh. And what I realized was I inherited the culture of silence, isolation, that was going to start with a cultural shift. And to go from a bustling classroom to a raucous state legislature to silence and local government.
Wow.
The furniture had been removed from City Hall, the people's place. And one of the privileges was bringing that back for students to study, people to take business meetings, families for a stop and have a snack while they're visiting the library, or just people to rest, relax, and unwind for the day, recharge their batteries as well as their electronics. And along with a concerted effort to share my philosophy and leadership and break down silos between departments, build relationships internally across departments and in our community, and the relationships that have been left, on the side of the road. Yeah. We had a lot of building to do.
Yeah, I can only imagine, as you mentioned, first stepping into the role, drinking from a fire hose, and then it's always different and unique when suddenly you're on the other side of the curtain and suddenly you see, oh, I wasn't expecting that. Okay, so what do I need to do now? And it sounds like you went through that phase and then you quickly were able to kind of adapt and figure out, well, let's change this, let's make this happen, let's put things in an order that makes more sense to remove those silos and bring the community together, which is great. Warren was just recently named in the Metro Marvels, the city of Warren, along with a select handful of other cities. What do you think it was that helped catapult or attribute that recognition for the city of Warren? Is there something you can easily point towards, or are there a few things that you think are what lend themselves to elevating the city of Warren?
Yeah, looking at the different factors that went into selecting the top 10, and I can't tell you how thrilled I was to see Warren make a top 10. I whenever the lists come out, I'm always excited to see, okay, who's distinguishing themselves, and always cautious when it comes to criticisms. But it was refreshing to see Warren held up as an example. And really one of the things that distinguished it through this recognition was our parks and green spaces. With over 30 parks, a park that is walkable in every square mile of the city. We have destination parks, and it's simultaneously a challenge. If you only have a handful of big parks, it's easier to drive funding and to create really dramatic, playscapes and placemaking experiences. When you have to spread that over 30 parks, then you have to be really strategic on what are the needs, how are you meeting them. But Warren's Parks and Recreation Department has also created destination parks. So we have one of the top skate parks that have just been completed in the Midwest and probably in one of the top 10s in the country. So we are excited to give our skateboarders a location that is dedicated to them, and then also bring them to the greater national scene for something that is so exciting.
I think that's unique because I do believe that young people oftentimes don't feel heard. And for a city to actually go that extra step and provide them a space, especially for something like skateboarding, which has its own controversy of itself. I remember growing up, you'd see signs all over the place that told you where you cannot skateboard. Great, but where can I skateboard? So, the fact that the city is that aware of its entire community, right?
Absolutely.
Regardless of what their age is, and factoring them into the city, it says a lot. It speaks volumes. If we're shifting gears now to the business development side of things, and when I think of development, I can't forget about when we were coming by to visit your office. There was all kinds of construction and stuff going on and stuff happening. You can tell that the city of Warren was doing quite a bit. There's a lot that's happening there. But from your view, what does Warren need right now from the small business owners or community and investors? Like, is there particular needs? And we touched on this a little bit when we were at your office, but would love to hear that again and love to speak to our audience to that as well.
Yeah. More than anything, I want our local business owners, our entrepreneurs, anyone looking for where their next endeavor is, to just give Warren a second look. I think Warren has had a reputation from local governments that many businesses bypassed Warren as seeing it as a difficult place. And what I want them to see is look through my eyes. I just gave my second State of the City address. And there is, like you said, so much happening, investment, infrastructure, really doing a rebranding and shining a light on what we are. We are a diverse community that is the biggest small town in Michigan. It's a unique opportunity. We have several economic development endeavors that really did not get past the finish line previously, that there's a new excitement. We have a commitment to our South End development, and that is our Van Dyke corridor from 8 Mile to 9.5 Mile. We have committed business owners. We have a commitment to municipal development. We have our Civic Center South with a library, a police substation, and Mayor's South End office, and that we have really embraced and utilized. We have a new build in our Fire Station 1 that is almost a $10 million investment that is bright and shiny, and people are excited to see. And our firefighters are excited for their new housing and the state-of-the-art opportunity it provides. But more than anything, anyone who has an interest, every corner of our community has a different flavor.
Yeah.
We're working on our town center development, which really residents are looking for something walkable that has everything in one space, something that builds on that civic center feel. And that also comes along with working on 700 units or more of new residential.
Okay. Wow. what would your message be to someone who's looking at Warren from the outside and thinking about starting a new business or relocating their business in the city of Warren?
I would always say start with our local economic development team. Share with them what you're looking for, because no one knows our community better than them. So if you're looking for a size, some kind of specifics in location, if you're looking for where does my business model fit, then they're the ones that have the finger on the pulse. They also know what economic development tools are out there. They're routinely working on matching any of those developers with what they're looking for and helping to bridge that gap to get it past the finish line. We also partner with Macomb County's Velocity Center, and they provide a lot of supports to local business owners, workshops, networking, and no additional cost. We do have 3 chambers of commerce that serve our local businesses. That comes with a membership and provides opportunities, but Velocity Center is one of those things that is a bridge, providing innovation and opportunities.
That's good to know. I think oftentimes people, whether they just don't know, they're not aware, or just don't think that it can help, I think too many people overlook that step in their process, and sometimes they just, in their haste, they just rush to, well, let me start my process on my own, versus we'll turn to the municipality, talk to the development director, see what they've got going on. And maybe on that note, this maybe connects to my next question, which is, are there any incentives or programs that, off the top of your head, that you could think of that you'd want local entrepreneurs to know about? Is there any particular ones that stand out right now, or would that be a development director question?
I definitely defer to our development director, who is a recipient of the Michigan Economic Development Directors Association Award for 2024. Oh, so we're very proud. Nice. He has a lot of tools, and he's developing a team around him that augment it. So whether it's brownfield, TIFA opportunities, working closely with MEDC on what offerings are out there, there is a lot to be had.
Nice. And how does business development tie into the momentum behind the Metro Marvels recognition and the other great stuff that you guys are doing?
Absolutely. I think that there are target areas that, the rankings remind us that we're continuously working to improve on. And I think economic development is a narrative I want to reclaim for Warren. Because even internally, I think we get stuck in the small town mindset and the perpetual historical feeling of being let down or left behind by government. And I realize that that's a piece of trust I have to earn with my community. That they've been given big promises that have not been delivered on. And for me, my philosophy is let my actions speak for myself. And, in 4 years, you will see what we've accomplished. But that means that we need to say, okay, these things we have a plan for, and we have committed communities to drive this, right? We can bring that Van Dyke corridor back to the heyday of 60s and 70s. That comes with adopting our active mobility plan, which reshapes a very big artery of traffic to shape it with traffic islands that allow for greater safety and walkability in that corridor, and which also is economic.
When you say traffic islands, it's not a roundabout, or
so it's not quite different. A boulevard. Okay. It's areas where people aren't going to the half-mile roads to cross at a traffic light. Yeah. It's a danger first to them.
I got you now.
And drivers. Yeah. And so by really looking at traffic patterns, where are people trying to cross these big traffic areas, and targeting those. So it's making those areas smaller and closer together and more accessible.
So kind of back to the point of how Warren has been doing a lot to make it more walkable, more friendly for pedestrians. And love that.
Yeah.
Speaking of pedestrians, switching gears back to the people and the neighborhoods and everyday life, let's talk about lifestyle. What's making people move to Warren or stay there and decide this is where I want to raise my family?
Yeah. The reason I stayed and the reason we have 50 families a month that visit my office for a welcome packet reminds the community that that there is interest and Warren has a lot to offer and people are welcome in Warren. It's a changing vibe that we're seeing. Warren is the biggest small town. I think people and families are still looking for that small town vibe. Yeah. A place to raise your family. Our seniors are some of the longest staying in their homes. And so they like the safety and the comfort and familiarity. It offers the largest housing stock for single family for affordable housing. Mm-hmm. It's those starter houses that are getting facelifts and are still competitive and affordable. And when we augment our housing stock with apartments, with homeowners, with rentals, that will make our housing stock even more affordable because there'll be less competition for it and more variety to target housing needs to what individuals are looking for. This is first residential development in over 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And so this is a significant improvement. Everything from modular homes, we expect 9 modular homes to be added to a residential park, hopefully before New Year's, which is exciting. Yeah. Those will be all homeowners. Wow. But there's good schools. When you're looking for a family and where your long-term commitment is, it's good schools. It's walkable destinations. It's green spaces. And I get to, share that. Our city services are top-notch. Communities want our sanitation. And the size of our population affords our communities not just curbside recycling, but a daily recycling center that you can stop and drop. Nice. It provides annual hazardous waste removal, which is an investment, but also ensures that those hazardous chemicals are out of homes and not being poured down drains. And that's good for our watershed.
Yeah. I mean, you hit it on the head. I think for the longest time, the idea of, well, where do I want to raise a family usually just hinged on good schools. It's like, okay, great. But now I think people are asking themselves, beyond that, what else? It's not, that it's good schools and that's where I think the city of Warren is really shining by introducing all these walkable spaces, the parks, the recreational activities, the different things that are offered for families and people to just be active in the community.
Absolutely.
Those have become taken the forefront, if you will, because not everybody is looking to move because they have a family with kids. You're truly looking at the full picture, the full spectrum across the board.
Truly, our young adults are redefining what those lifestyle qualities are. They value their time out of work. They find purpose in work, but they find purpose in joy. And so what those interests are, and I, shine a light on our libraries. We have 1 main branch and 3 satellite branches and expect to be augmented soon by another satellite branch. And our parks and recreation. Warren can offer a significant amount of program that's free to the public, where other communities you might have to register for every program and it might come with a fee. And so we do pay a millage, but if you're not using the free services between the libraries and parks, you're missing out on your investment.
Yeah, truly. What's one thing that you think Warren does better than people give it credit for?
It was hard to narrow it down. I landed on public safety. I pride myself on our police and fire. We just recently had the millage reaffirmed by our community that says we prioritize our public safety. And our police and fire are dedicated to providing top-notch services, excellent response times, but also building relationships in the community. So it's more than a job. Yeah. It is keeping our community safe and protected. And then the other piece is city sanitation services, we touched on this.
Yeah.
But again, when things go smoothly, people take it for granted.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. These are the things that you just don't think about. You take for granted: fire, police, sanitation. Sorry. Yeah.
No, that's exactly it. And for me, it's about reminding people. We pay for it. You know, when we talk about taxes and what comes along with home ownership, it is your investment in city services. And when it's done well, you don't have to think about it. It shows up on the days it's supposed to happen. And when there's a hiccup, you can get on the phone. Local government is one of the few places you can get on the phone and talk to someone, and they'll help you solve your problems.
Yeah.
And I wish I could say, you know, I'd love to tell about every department. And we did do a deep dive with our Empowering Civic Engagement series this year that came out of being a new elected official, learning departments inside and out, learning the roles of our civil service workers, and saying, I grew up in this community and I didn't have this level of knowledge. Where's my taxpayer dollars going? What am I getting in return? Yeah. And so I, in turn, went back to my department heads. We shined a light on 9 of our departments this year. We're going to continue it next year. And at every month we offered, we started with water department. And you're waiting to see, okay, how do we engage them? Are they interested in? And you better believe they wanted to know, how do you calculate 1 unit of water usage? It's very niche, but it was eye-opening. And no sooner did the people attend one, they said, what's happening next? And we have active involvement in our police academy, Citizens Police Academy. And so we kind of modeled it after that. Instead of doing a long on one, we gave a sampler of city services. Yep. And that we ended with sanitation, and people were fascinated and are consistently realizing that there are services available to them they didn't know. And so as a leader and that liaison between the services and the citizens, I have a responsibility to make sure we're doing a better job of communicating those so people aren't missing out. And when they're asked to put a value on it, that they proudly stand behind it and say, it's worth it.
Yeah. Sometimes being the best kept secret isn't always a good thing. You want to get that secret out there. Let's tell everybody what they can be enjoying.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What are you thinking about quality of life stuff, right? Obviously, we talked about schools, parks, housing, and walkability. Is there something else that's on the horizon that maybe is a bigger picture later down the line, or anything that's happening that we should be aware of?
Absolutely. For me, my philosophy starts with listening and realizing all the pieces, populations, and communities that make up the larger community of Warren. And so whether policy oriented or whether it's youth or seniors, being very thoughtful and making sure that as we plan, as we approach things, we give it a comprehensive look. So quality of life is for people like my dad, who've been living in their homes 45 years with the commitment that they want to age in place. They want somewhere that offers them recreation, experiences and opportunities for volunteering, like with city commissions, an opportunity and a space that they can spend time with their family, and a sense of purpose. This gives them a sense of comfort and allows them that, as their needs change, as well as accessibility, that they can stay there with confidence, and whether, they have emergency needs going forward, those are being met. Being thoughtful about our young adults. As an educator, you see every age and stage from early childhood, elementary school age, middle school and high school, young adults that are launching into what the next chapter means for them and all the things that looks like. And for them, it's do they have recreational time? Do they have green spaces? Do they have places that they can gather with friends? And can they pursue interests beyond their work world? Families putting down roots are looking for schools, as we touched on, but the neighborhoods. Can my kids go out to play and I feel confident in that? Do I feel welcome? I know I inherited, and I didn't realize growing up, some divisive issues, whether it was race, whether it was immigration. And I'm so proud, and it came out of my classroom, that my students were my first teachers. in introducing me to different cultures. The realization and the intention of building everyone's welcome and warm. We had our first Pride. We've had our second Pride. We've had Juneteenth celebrations. Focus on MLK Day and making that a day of service and continuing the legacy. We've done highlights on our Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, our Black History Month. And I've had criticism aimed at me saying, why are you targeting or why are you, servicing certain populations? And I said, no, I think you missed the mark, because that isn't for those communities. This is for our entire community.
Yeah.
Because it's only when you develop an understanding for culture, when you start to ask questions that may make you uncomfortable, that you have the realizations that there's more things that unite us than divide us. And those are things that make people feel warm, welcome, and seen. And it's a changing experience and warm.
That is nice to hear. That's actually, I think sometimes you do need to push forward those uncomfortable kind of situations for some people. And for others, it might not be uncomfortable, but it's true. It's all learning opportunities for one another. And that's how you give and take and share and experience life. Now, you mentioned this, you may have touched on this a little bit. Obviously, as a former teacher, how has that shaped the way that you approach leadership from families and young people in the city of Warren?
Yeah, I tease that everything I needed to know to lead the third largest city in Michigan, I learned in elementary school. Building relationships, managing projects, solving problems. And I have the realization that I look at situations a little differently than other people. Yeah. That includes approaching challenges differently. As a community leader, I see myself as a translator or a liaison. Recognizing that even though we mandate government classes in high school before you graduate, for students whose priority is prom, getting through graduation and what they're doing next, they don't understand paying taxes, they don't understand local services. I see both the need, one, to pull local government in at every age and stage. If I can teach taxes to 9 and 10-year-olds, I can help adults see where their dollars are going and create purpose. And also, that's the whole, we've gotten away from Sesame Street. Who are the people in your neighborhood? Yeah. So bringing those services back into the schools and helping people realize, I've had people say to me, I can't call you, you're too important. I said, I don't think you got the job description. I work for you. My job is done best when I know what problems need to be solved. And don't call me 3 months later when you're so frustrated you're about to explode. Call me each time it happens so we can help unsolve and unpack those problems in the moment. As a community leader, I have utilized my roots in education to build better relationships between schools and cities. Schools are very difficult to get entree to. They have a lot of responsibilities. They have a lot of demands on their time. And they're going to be very limited into what, and who they invite it through the doors for the students. And so having relationships with superintendents in all the 6 school districts that serve Warren students, having put deep roots into going in and teaching government classes. And so I have students for over 5 years who know what a state legislator does and recognizes their state legislator in public. Nice. Most adults in a community couldn't name their local elected leaders and would not necessarily recognize them. Yeah. And so I take great pride in seeing community leadership is about community engagement, and it is about education. It's very fundamental roots, including asking questions and listening.
Yeah, that's refreshing to hear. It really is refreshing to hear your perspective on these things, especially because we know that it's oftentimes the youth, when they're transitioning from high school and they're getting into that voting age, they're usually the ones who can charge an election or charge up a campaign or a candidate, and getting them involved at a young age is so crucial. And again, oftentimes they're just overlooked until you start seeing like, oh, look at this movement that's happening, and it's sparked by the youth that are actually moving
Absolutely.
it. And so it really is, when I say it's refreshing to hear these things, it really is. So thank you.
And we find those trends waver, right? Either it's our youth are frustrated that they feel like the adults, the people that have been charged, haven't considered their needs coming up, and to the point that they are motivated and they're going to be that agent of change, to sometimes is apathy, right? Things are either too comfortable or they're so overwhelmed with all the other responsibilities that they don't have the bandwidth for that. And I see that regardless of age when it comes to socioeconomics and trying to understand and meet people where they're at.
Yeah. Okay, so Mayor, let's flip the vibe.
Okay.
And now we're going to do our real deal quick-fire round.
I love a good pop quiz.
Yes, and these are intended to be real quick answers.
Good luck. I've got a lot to say.
You've got this. All right, so your favorite lunch spot in Warren right now?
Wherever I'm going to go eat today.
Okay, that's fair.
It's an easy answer, but it's true because I love Warren's food scene.
Yeah.
It's often overlooked, and it's something that I'm championing.
Yeah.
I can find food for whatever mood I'm in to eat in Warren, from brunch spots to international fare. And I believe food tourism is the next step for Warren. And I want to invite people in and remind them, you want Middle Eastern? We got some of the best Middle Eastern, and that's Lebanese across the board. Yeah. It's it's Italian, it's African, it's South Asian. Pho. You like pho? You like Thai? You can come and get really good Thai.
I'm getting hungry.
Come, I can't wait because we're working on a restaurant week, and I remember visiting different communities. I love to travel. Mm-hmm. And when you get to a hotel and they provide you, okay, this is within so many feet and this is how you're going to get there. And if you want this, go here. If you want this, go here. And our local businesses, we've done a Taste of Warren as part of our State of the City. Mm-hmm. So they've stepped up and offered samplings to the community. And it's gotten people go, I didn't know we had that. I've never tried that before. Open their doors, open their minds to new, food,
options, yeah. Right on. I love that. A Warren neighborhood to watch in 2026.
I'm going to go back to our Van Dyke corridor.
Yeah.
8 mile to 9.5 mile. And we're working closely with Centerline. They're the heartbeat of our community, or the hug that we have 1.5 square mile city within our city. And they have their own identity and they have their own services, but we have a relationship. And we've built relationships, shared services for parks and recreation, but there's also the recognition that Van Dyke corridor's success is between 8 Mile and 696. And so to do any of that in isolation is short-sighted, because if they complement, it makes it stronger. Yeah. We're ready to adopt our Van Dyke study plan, which sets us on the trajectory to draw down grant dollars. But I think it also invites new business and entrepreneurship to come check out that. It's their downtown of the 60s and 70s. I think people have forgotten about.
Yeah, it happens. We will forget.
Yeah.
When is the last time you totally nerded out about something city related?
I'd have to say every day, but this week, it was a visit to the GM Tech Center. I think people forget Warren is home to the research and development for GM. Yep. And they invited us in. They did a little history of how it evolved. It evolved right along with Warren's city. They established a year before we became incorporated as a city. Oh, okay. And we visited the cell battery plant and the aerodynamics laboratory. We walked through the largest, oldest wind tunnel that they use for the aerodynamics testing, and it was incredible. It was like walking into Mammoth Cavern, and you forget that's in your backyard.
Yeah.
Right? This technology, this competitive, the next generation mobility is all centered there for GM.
That really is a big deal, and I think we do overlook it. Even if we look at just Metro Detroit in general, visiting in a lifetime ago for me, I worked in the tech space for a while, and I would visit Silicon Valley, and I was on the campus of Facebook, and seeing what they do there and what they're doing, how they're doing it, and then seeing what's happening with Google. And then started realizing we're losing a lot of people who are coming out of our universities here in Michigan with engineering degrees to go over there because of the bright, shiny lights of the cool stuff that they're doing there. Then we fail to remember, look at all amazing things that we've got in our own backyard here. And I think we're seeing or the automotive industry, General Motors, Ford Motor Company, develop a lot more campus-like environments and really shining a light on what they're doing in the industry to change the industry and be more about mobility.
Absolutely.
Rather than we make cars. No, it's about mobility now. So they're kind of changing that concept and they're changing the way that they do business as well. And I think that we do overlook that.
Yeah.
What's your go-to Mayor on the Move music playlist?
What might surprise some is show tunes. I love music that I can sing along to.
Yeah.
You pull up next to me in the car, I'm probably rocking out. I do like my pop music, and U2 is my go-to band. My predecessor was all about the Frank Sinatra, and he had the music at City Hall when you're on hold. All Frank Sinatra, and so they said,
Really?
"So what's the wait music going to be now that you're mayor?" I was like, "We're good with the classical." But I did tease them that it might have to be Beautiful Day.
Okay, which is not a bad selection. Beautiful Day is a classic now.
Right.
Most underappreciated city employee job.
I had to give some thought to it because I think because city services are so easy and so dependable that we overlook the people who provide those services.
Yeah.
But the most underappreciated, in my opinion, is our clerical administrative staff. They are the front-facing face for the city of Warren for every resident, business owner, and visitor. Yeah. They are there to answer your questions and help you navigate, get you answers. But more than anything, they deal with grace for all the people who are frustrated and burnt out, and they help de-escalate situations. They help listen to and unpack the problems. So, help them find and put them in the right direction and help them find success.
So those are your unsung heroes.
Those are our unsung
Great
heroes.
Pick. What about a quote, book, or a mantra that you come back to on tough days?
I collect wisdom and inspiration everywhere. It really depends on what the moment demands. So I can't even start, but number one, where we started, be the change. There are plenty of people who are waiting for someone else to do the work.
Yeah.
And we are the heroes we're waiting for. And no one person can do this alone. So, I am often the face and the name at the top, but I surround myself with people who are prepared to join me in the work. And we're constantly recruiting volunteers to commissions on things they're passionate about and have experience and knowledge and they want to influence and be a part of. Part of the job is just showing up. We need to let our community know as elected leaders that we learn from them by being present and that we show up for them by attending community activities, events, and meetings. And that shouldn't be exception. That should be expected. In many communities, that's the bar. We're working on lifting that in Warren. Listen. Building trust with local government starts with asking questions, taking the time to hear people out. They want to know that their needs, concerns, questions are being considered when decisions are being made. Sometimes the answer is no or not yet, or managing expectations by building out a timeline and letting them know what's reasonable, because government is a glacial pace and can be frustrating, but it's not without purpose, and you need people to be thoughtful and planning. It's about meeting people wherever they're at. I know as a young teacher, my frustration was, why weren't my students prepared when they walked in the door? And the credit the veterans teachers reminded me, their lived experience was different than yours. What they come to and what they bring and the barriers they've engaged along the way are different than yours. And so you first need to understand where they're coming from and meet them where they're at. Because if you expect them to perform where they're at and they're not there, then you will be eternally frustrated and they will eternally feel like failures. And that translates to local government as well. Every corner of our community has different needs.
Yeah.
And to treat everyone and every issue as same across the board, you're missing and you're leaving people behind.
Yeah.
And in the end, residents deserve to have high expectations for elected leaders, and it's up to us to rise to meet them. And I am consistently working with our residents to raise those expectations for locally electeds. I think too many people have been just been able to coast. And for me, no, we have community conversations.
Yeah.
I can't give you 5 minutes of my day every day, but once a month I can set aside a couple hours, and you show up, we're going to have community hours. I'm going to tell you what's going on, but then I'm going to answer your questions on hot topics, hot button issues, the headlines that you only get a little bit of an insight to what this really means and how this impacts me. And so that shouldn't just be me. That is every elected's responsibility to the people who have entrusted them with this authority.
Nice. That is refreshing. Last question.
Okay.
What's one piece of advice you'd give to the future leaders of Warren?
Yeah. For me, it is to stay invested. Most people don't see them in themselves in elected leadership, which is sad. We need to validate and value public service as much as a law degree, a career in public safety. We need to cultivate civil service, and we need to cultivate leaders and remind people that we need people who are authentic. We need people who are representative, people who are hardworking, people who are committed to serving the community. And that's you. I can't tell you how many rooms I'm in that people are like, no, I'm a teacher. I can't do that. No, you're a teacher. And because you're a teacher, you bring knowledge and experience to the table that will serve our community. It doesn't matter what path you walk. If you have a heart to serve and you're committed to it, we need you.
Yeah, I love that a lot. And I think sometimes people just need to hear that. So hopefully this is resonating with some of you out there. Well, Mayor Lori Stone, you are the real deal. Thank you for being here. For those of you who are out there listening or watching, if you found value from this conversation, please drop us a follow and subscribe. That's how we're going to grow this podcast even more. Also, when you subscribe, then you'll get a notification as soon as this episode drops or the next episode drops, so you'll always know when new episodes are hitting. Also, don't forget to like us and leave us a review as well. So until next time, this is The Real Deal with Empire. Mayor Lori Stone, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks for that
We
opportunity.
hope to have you back again someday in the future.
I'd love to.
And for everybody else, we'll see you guys next time.